Let's start with the head of our dragon. We want to be able to fit our dragon on the whole paper. I'm using my paper horizontally. So I'm going to start with a small, just not too big, circle toward the upper left side of my paper. So I want to leave a little room here for the nose, but I want to make sure I have lots of room here for the body and the wings and the tail.
You're going.
I'm going to go down from the bottom of my circle. I'm going to make a line. This almost looks like a balloon right now. I made a little line with a bit of a curve to it. This is going to be, think of it like the spine of the neck, or we're going to build the neck of our dragon from this. It's going to help us locate and make it above the body. Below, at the end of that line for the neck, we're going to make our body, and the body is a kind of an oval shape. Think of like an egg or an avocado shape. So it's a little bit smaller here and it gets a little bit bigger out here. You can actually make it a long body because a dragon is not a real creature, not a real animal. You can make it a little longer. You can make kind of a long dragon body. You can make it a bit shorter. So I made my body shape here. And at this end of this shape, I want to put in, like we did, a line that would be kind of the structure of the neck. We're going to put in a line for the tail. You can have your tail go down and back up again. You can have your tail come around in a different direction. So I did my tail so that it kind of comes down off the back of the body and then up again. You see in my reference here, the tail goes down and back up, but you can really make the tail any shape you like. So we're going to add a couple more ovals in here, and we will do some erasing later, but below the tail and overlapping the back of our body, I want to put a small oval shape. So you see that it overlaps the body a little bit. This is going to be the back leg, or part of the back leg. And then I want to do one in the front of the body as well. I'm not sure why my camera looks so blurry. I'm sorry, my camera looks really blurry and I don't really like the way it's looking. See if I can fix something here.
It looks fine to me.
Oh, it does?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that looks a little better. Okay. Maybe it's my eyesight. It looks a little better now. Okay, so we have the circles where we're going to start the legs, or these ovals, sorry. So at this back leg, I also, at the end of this oval, I also want to add another part of the leg. So I made another oval going toward the bottom of the paper. And I'm going to do the same thing in the front here. So you see, I'm starting to build the shapes of my dragon here. And then our dragon also needs a wing. So we're going to start at the top of the back here, just above this front leg. And I'm going to make a few lines. So I want a line that angles back away from the head a little bit. And then I'm going to make it like a fold and go over toward the head. And from the top of that, this is where my wing is going to get all those kind of like bats have almost those long fingers. I'm going to make 1, 2, 3 lines coming off of that top of this structure of the wing. And where that fold is, where we put a bend in it, we're also going to put another kind of finger. So this is all going to be the structure of our wing. There's a lot of structure to building our dragon here. Now, once you have those, that structure, we're going to build out now the neck and the tail. So the neck is obviously not going to be just this skinny little line. We have to give it a little bit of thickness. So if you came to the right side of the head, this circle, and follow that line you made for the neck and come down to the back. So I followed this line, but I started out here, so I'm making the neck a little bit thicker. And then we're going to do it from the bottom of our circle and make the neck a little bit thicker there. So now our dragon has a nice thick neck. If you want to go in and erase the line you first made, you'll start to see the shape of your dragon's neck. And our dragon doesn't have just a circle for a head. It has a long nose. This is where the mouth and the, if you wanted to make some fire coming out of your dragon. So you want to give your dragon a bit of a nose. This is just coming out from the side of your circle. Our dragon's going to have spikes and scales, so you can always change a little bit of the shape of your dragon's neck and head and add horns and things like that. We'll do that later. So we're going to do the same thing with our tail. We're going to make it nice and thick. So the tail is going to start at the top of the body here. And I'm just following that line, that curvy line we put in. But I want our tail to come to a point. The dragon's tail has a point at the end. So I started at the top of my oval and I just followed that shape, but I ended right at the end of the line I first put in. And I can do the same thing underneath. So just at the back of the body, I can follow that line. I just want to make sure the tail goes to a point. So there's my dragon's tail. And again, if you want to erase that line in the middle to see what your tail is starting to look like. So now my dragon has a tail. So let's finish off the legs. We actually only see 3 legs in our dragon. One of the legs is hidden behind the dragon. So this is going to be the back leg. So I have the top of the leg and the middle of the leg. For the bottom of the leg, I want to come off here at the bottom of this oval and give it some claws. So I'm just going to come down and say, do like maybe 3 claws hanging down. I made this oval a little bit longer. So now I put in some claws there on this leg. And if you like to erase those lines in the middle, you can see what your leg is starting to look like here. And we're going to do the same in the front leg. I'm going to come out a little longer than my oval and make 3 sharp claws. So those sharp claws are just a zigzag. Think of drawing a W. So now I have my front foot. And then you see from our reference here, you just see part of this front foot that's a little bit above the one we just drew. So I'm just going to come out where the neck meets the body and draw 1, 2, 3 sharp claws and then come back. So that one is a little bit, it looks a little bit shorter, that leg that's hidden here. Now we're going to finish off one wing. So at the top where we put this long finger on our wing, we want to connect all of these fingers with some of that rubbery dragon skin. So I want to come from the end of that top one and make a C shape and connect it to the next one. And I'm going to do the same thing. Bats have similar wings like this. I'm going to connect each of those little fingers I made with kind of a C shape so that it looks like the wing is got skin stretched between those bones. And for the bottom one, I want to come out where you started your wing at the bottom of this line. I'm going to come behind that. So I want to go to the right a little bit and put in just a mark or a dot. And I'm going to make a C shape going out like that. So this is the bottom of my wing, and I'm going to connect those two dots. This is another.
Can we erase the middle of it, the line that's going through the wing?
This one? The one that was on the body?
I think that's what they mean.
Yep, I think you're right. So there is another wing. The dragon has 2 wings, but we only see a little bit of it. So what we're going to do between this wing and the neck, I'm just going to hide another wing. It's just going to be a line and then that kind of fold in the wing. And then I made it a little bit shorter than the big wing. So it just comes down about there. So this is the second wing on the other side of the body that you don't see a lot of. You can add those little fingers if you want. That's going to be a hidden little bit of a wing showing. Just how this leg only shows a little bit, this wing is only showing. So now our dragon needs an eye and a mouth. I'm going to put the eye toward the top of that circle I drew, kind of in the middle of that circle, and then just go up a little bit. I'm going to draw my eye and then just a curved line over the top so that my dragon has kind of a eyebrow. And then I put the bottom of the eye as just a kind of a U-shaped or smile-shaped curve. Now I'm going to erase the rest of my circle because I want to put in the mouth and put in some of the horns. So the rest of my circle, just the front here and the bottom here, I'm going to erase. Our dragon's mouth is toward the bottom. Looks a little bit like a dinosaur. And then a nostril above that. I'm going to add kind of a little bit of horns, and this looks a little bit like a mustache coming off. So just next to that nostril, I'm going to make a long kind of a mustache or an antenna. I'm going to put some horns. So I want to put a horn at the top of my head. Then I like these scales that go all the way down the back of my dragon's neck. So I'm just drawing a zigzag pattern, and I'm going to follow it all the way around the neck. You can really make your dragon look how you like. You can put some of those little zigzags underneath your dragon's chin. When I look at pictures of dragons, some of them have little ridges going on the top of their face here. It looks great when you put those ridges all the way down the tail, and then you can add spikes to the edge of the tail if you like, depending on how fierce you want your dragon to look. So at the end of your tail, you can put some long spikes. You can put a couple of them if you like. And you can even put spikes going all the way around the face. The next thing I'm going to do is add this, the scales that are on this would be sort of the belly of the dragon. I'm going to show you my larger one here. So I'm going to take a line kind of where we drew that first line to make our neck that was like a spine. I'm going to put a line there, and then on the left side of that line, I'm just going to make some ridges like this so that my dragon looks like it has some scales that go right down its belly. So the front of the neck and the belly of the dragon, so below the legs here, I'm putting in a line so that I can make this part just a different texture than the back, which I'm going to put scales on. So my dragon now has this pattern that goes all the way down the belly. The other thing you can erase is the back of the oval, if you didn't already do it, so that your tail can be all scales. So to do scales, scales are really easy to do if you follow kind of a little simple formula. So I'll show you a little bit bigger. So scales, like fish scales and in lizard scales, and in this case, dragon scales, we can make sort of connected U shapes or V shapes. They can be long and skinny, or they can be shorter. little U shapes. And if you go from the middle of each bump, so from this middle of this bump to the middle of this bump, and make the same kind of shape, you can connect them. And make your scales continue from the middle of each little bump there. I'm making a similar shape. So these are kind of long, pointy scales. I can also do more like fish scales that are a little rounder. So by making our scale pattern, whatever we like, we can wrap scales all the way down our dragon's body. So you see that I drew these scales in that kind of a long V shape, and then I kept going, and I have it curve around the whole body here. So they're not just going across the paper in a straight line this way. My scales are actually curving on the body. So my scales might go like this. You see how they're sideways here. So this can take a long time. I would say make your scales kind of big so that it doesn't take you too long. You could always add more detail later. You can also do this with your pen if you don't want to go ahead and trace over it. So I just started my scales. I'm going to finish them with my pen. The other thing I want to finish is the wings, so you guys can see how to finish the wings. So each of those lines that we drew is kind of like a bone in the dragon's wing. So I'm going to put a parallel line next to each one so that each one is a little bit thicker. And then I can color that. So I'm just drawing another line next to each of those lines. So now it's a little more like a bone, and then this part here and here is more like a piece of skin or stretchy, rubbery skin in the middle.
I think it's called membrane.
Membrane is exactly the right word. I don't know if anyone's ever seen a bat up close, but they have kind of a bony, it almost looks like a long finger because some of them have a little bit of a nail at the end, like a claw. You could do that too. You could put a little claw at the end of your dragon's wing. Like
What about the hands and the feet?
You can add a claw to those.
I mean, like the design.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this design?
Mm-hmm.
So I did kind of like a wave, a little bit of a wave print on the,
Okay.
I separated it, so I didn't do it. I just made sort of a texture that was like scales, but I separated them. You could do really small scales if you wanted on the legs.
What I did this.
What'd you do? Oh, those are nice scales.
And she's a girl dragon.
You can make it a girl dragon. How did you make it a girl?
I put eyebrows on her. So what?
eyelashes.
Yeah. I
Kind
made
of like
girl out, to make her look like a girl.
The legs, you can just do any kind of texture you like that might be a little different than the body. You could do something like
I made kind of like a wavy.
you could do a wavy small scales. So I just put some dots on here so it looks like maybe it's like
You're echoing again.
Could we do Garfield next for next class?
we have
Could we do
to
Garfield?
mute you. If I don't mute you, I'm sorry, we get a little echo and it's hard to hear. So I'm just outlining now, and then with my pen, I can actually finish my textures. Because this is mostly a black and white drawing, you can really spend a lot of time doing the textures. I'm adding in some claws. So the more detail you add to your dragon, the more scaly your dragon can look. Your dragon can also have things like, we already added some horns. I've seen some dragons that have ears. So you could add kind of an ear on your dragon and then also a horn. You can make the horns.
But don't like most dragons have like their ear under their scales?
You could have the ear just in the scales behind the eye over here. Because dragons are mythical creatures, I think you'll probably be able to see lots of different shapes and types of dragons. I've seen dragons that have, we've all seen the kind that have fire and the kinds that, I heard a few of you have put things like eyebrows and eyelashes, and then big
Ones that
teeth.
spit venom.
I didn't do any big teeth on this one, but you could do some big teeth.
I made kind of a wave for the scales.
The other dragon that I did had a spiky tongue.
Spiky tongue,
I made that.
that's cool. I looked at a lot of pictures of dragons before doing this one, and some are very fierce looking and some are much more cute. If anyone ever saw How to Train Your Dragon, you see that some are real spiky and
Yes, How to Train Your
scary,
Dragon is awesome.
and some are a little goofy and friendlier. So you should make your dragon as scary or as cute as you like.
Have you watched How to Train Your Dragon?
I love it.
What's your favorite dragon?
Oh, I don't know the names of them all.
Which Dragon Rider's dragon?
Oh, I think definitely one of the ones that's, some of the kids train.
Yeah, like
So not those ones that, you know, the real big one that was the one they were trying to
yeah, the alpha.
defeat. That one was a bit much.
Have you watched the third one?
I don't know.
Well,
What happens in the third one?
so in the third one, there's this bad guy named Grimmel the Grizzly. But he's a dragon hunter, but he has dragons. But his dragons are so creepy. So they have a stinger on their tail. They have like saber. So you know how like a mammoth has like tusks sticking out? They have like those. They spit acid.
Wow.
I know.
Is that the one where it's cold? They're in a cold place?
Like no, they're like moving.
They're in an Arctic kind of,
No, I don't think so.
no, I guess I didn't see it.
The dragon's name is so creepy. Their name is like their species name is a death gripper.
Oh, wow.
I know.
I didn't understand why the main one is called Toothless. It has teeth.
No, because in the first one, when Hiccup first meets Toothless, he's just a kid, and his teeth are retracted.
Oh, yeah, they do retract, right?
Yeah, so his teeth were retracted at that specific time. So he's like, "Hey, you look toothless." But the moment he said toothless, his teeth like came out.
I guess I'll have to watch it again. So I also put a little bit of texture onto the wing. So in this one, I just followed the, whatever curve I had put on the edge of that membrane. I just followed that with a line pattern. So that's something else you could do.
Pen is useless.
Oh, need a new pen?
Yes. I need to go get a new pen.
Same. My pens are super bad.
I probably should have warned you, you might use a lot of black pen on this one. I see a thumbs up from Kyle and Amalia.
This is how mine turned out.
Okay, I got it. This is mine.
Oh, that looks cool. What's he holding, Kai?
That's his egg.
An egg?
Mhm.
Very cool. And fire.
I'm not muted. I don't know.
All right, so I'll come up with something for next week and we'll do another class.
Garfield! Garfield! Do Garfield from the Garfield show.
I know who Garfield is.
Can we draw him next week?
I'm not sure, but we'll draw it at some point.
He's
Might not-
pretty easy to draw.
It might not be next week, but because I like to do a character every once in a while. How'd you do, Isabella?
I did kind of good.
Turned out like this.
It's so small.
I know, I tried to make it bigger, but then I messed up, so I had to redo it on this one to make it smaller.
You have lots of room. You can draw a giant one below it.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, thank you guys.
Okay.
Have a good week. I'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Kai.
Bye.
Bye.
Max, let me see yours. Oh, cool. The wing came out real nice.
Yeah.
Are you happy with it?
Yeah, it's just, I think I made the body too big.
Hey, buddy.
And like, I can't fix that because I already outlined the wing.
Oh. You can,
If only it was on a computer, I could just like
Oh.
use the keypad to like shrink it.
try and draw another one.
No,
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 I thought you liked dragons.
I do.
All right, we'll do something different next week.
All right.
All right.
I love mythological creatures.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah?
Sister. And
Hagrid.
all.
Hairy beast.
He is a hairy beast.
You just gotta shave. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Hey, Megan.
Hi, Trish, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining.
You're welcome.
All right, I'll see you guys. I'm checking out. I'll see you, Max.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.